A terrified girl crawled through the Kansas prairie, while 3 smiling riders hunted her like an animal. But everything changed when she whispered, "They sold my sisters." One silent gunslinger stood between her and the men who owned the whole town. And by midnight, he discovered a secret so horrifying, even the law was protecting it. But when a missing sister suddenly pointed a revolver at her own blood, Reed Maddox realized this rescue was about to become a war. Watch the full story till the end, and follow our page for more powerful Western stories like this. The Kansas prairie burned under the summer sun of 1883. Heat waves danced above the dry grass, making the whole land look alive and dangerous. Dust rolled across the open fields like smoke after a battle. Far away, a lone rider moved through the endless yellow land. His name was Reed Maddox. Most people in the West knew that name, though few knew the man behind it. Some called him a gunslinger. Others called him Trouble. Reed never cared enough to correct anyone. At 42, his face looked carved from old leather. Years of dust, gunpowder, and bad memories had worn him down into silence. He rode slowly toward the town of Briar Ridge with only one thing on his mind: coffee. That was when he heard the scream. His horse stopped before he did. The scream came again, sharp, terrified, human. Reed narrowed his eyes toward the tall grass ahead. Something moved there. A young woman crawled out onto the dry earth, dragging one injured leg behind her. Dirt covered her face. Her dress was torn. Blood darkened her knee. And behind her came 3 riders, not fast, not angry, slow, relaxed, like men enjoying a hunt. One of them laughed softly and fired a shot into the dirt beside the girl. Dust exploded against her face. She cried out and tried crawling faster, her fingers digging into the earth desperately. Reed felt something cold settle inside him. The girl reached an old dead cedar stump and wrapped both shaking arms around it, as if the broken wood could save her. The nearest rider climbed off his horse calmly. A leather strap hung from his hand. Now, he said politely. "Stop making this difficult." The girl looked up with tears and terror mixed together. "Please." The man raised the strap. That was when Reed finally spoke. "Don't." His voice was low, quiet, but every man there heard it clearly. All 3 riders turned toward him. The leader tipped his hat slightly. "Friend," he said with a smile, "this is family business." Reed did not move. The girl stared at him with desperate eyes. Her lips trembled before she whispered something that changed everything. "They sold my sisters." Silence swallowed the prairie. Even the smiling leader lost his expression for 1 second. Then the man with the strap swung anyway. Reed moved faster than thought. His fist crashed into the man's jaw with a dull crack. The man hit the dirt hard. At the same moment, the leader reached for his revolver. A gunshot exploded. The leather strap split in half. Dust floated through the hot air. Reed stood there holding his Colt steady, his face empty as stone. Nobody moved. The 3rd rider slowly backed his horse away. The leader raised both hands carefully, but hatred burned behind his eyes. "You keep her," he said coldly. "But Briar Ridge is going to hear a very different story." Reed did not answer. The riders turned and disappeared into the tall grass. Only then did Reed lower the gun. The girl still clung to the cedar stump, shaking uncontrollably. Reed stepped closer but kept his distance. Rope marks circled both her wrists. "You can stand," he said quietly, "or you can ride." He paused. "But you won't crawl anymore." The girl stared at him as tears filled her eyes. "My name is Leah Hart," she whispered. Reed offered his canteen. She drank like water itself was hope. "I ain't going back," she said stubbornly. Reed nodded once. "Can you ride?" "Yes." He brought his spare horse over carefully. He noticed the way she flinched whenever his hands came near her wrists. So he stayed gentle, slow. The prairie wind pushed hot dust across them as they rode away. Leah kept looking behind them. "They took my sisters," she whispered after a while. "First Renee, then Claire, then June." Reed stayed silent, because sometimes silence respected pain better than words. Far ahead, telegraph wires stretched beside the road. Reed hated those wires. Lies traveled faster than truth on them. And he knew by now the town would already be preparing its lie. By sunset, Briar Ridge appeared in the distance. It looked harmless. Small buildings, chimney smoke, horses tied outside shops. But Reed had seen towns like this before, places where evil wore clean boots and smiled politely. Instead of taking Leah through the main street, he led her behind old barns and quiet alleys until they reached a small stable house near a dry creek. An older woman stepped outside, holding a shotgun. Gray hair, sharp eyes, hard face. Her name was Mabel Crow. She looked at Reed first, then at Leah's injured knee. "Lord above," Mabel muttered. "You always bring trouble with you." "Evening, Mabel," Reed answered softly. "Girl needs help." Mabel looked at Leah for another long moment before stepping aside. "Inside, before the mosquitoes carry her away." The house smelled like coffee and old wood. A fan turned slowly overhead. Leah sat in a chair while Mabel cleaned her wounds with whiskey. Leah hissed painfully. "If that hurts," Mabel snorted, "wait till you're old." A tiny laugh escaped Leah despite herself. Reed noticed his shoulders relax slightly. Small sounds mattered. Later, while Leah rested, Mabel placed a small cloth scrap on the table. White cotton, one stitched letter. R. Leah grabbed it instantly. "Renee!" Her voice broke. Mabel's face darkened. "Found it behind the Silver Banner Saloon." The room suddenly felt colder. Reed understood immediately. The girls were being hidden in plain sight. That night, Reed rode into town alone. The Silver Banner Saloon glowed warmly under lantern light. Music drifted outside. Men laughed inside. But Reed noticed the armed guards near the side entrance, not keeping trouble out, keeping someone in. Inside, the saloon smelled of whiskey and sweat. A young woman moved between tables carrying drinks. Reed recognized her instantly from Leah's description. Renee Hart. Bruises covered her wrist. Fear lived inside her eyes. When she passed Reed's table, she whispered without looking at him. "Leave." "Your sister's alive," Reed answered quietly. "And safe." Renee froze for half a second. Then a heavy hand grabbed Reed's shoulder. Hank Dobb. Big, mean, red-faced. "Well," Hank growled, "Prairie Hero showed up." Reed looked up calmly. "Your jaw still hurting?" Some nearby cowboys laughed nervously. Hank hated that. He swung first.